So this is the thing. How do you accept love? That's what I wanted to talk about today. I'm over here accepting love at this moment. I've learned how to do it, but it took a lot of time. That does not mean being weighted on hand and foot, though it seems. And I am just very, very excited to talk about this subject. Thank you so much. Come on now. Oh. All right. Hey.
I am not happy about this.
You're so close. You're so close. You got this. Come on. It was
I'm one spin away. God.
So technically, he's late. He's pulling a brand.
Wow.
Not a Gorski.
No, first of all, Wait, there's no way. There's no way. Even sideways, I will not stand for this.
You're sideways. You're not straight up. So, I mean, we have to wait until you're ready, dude. We'll wait. Don't worry. We'll wait.
We'll wait.
John's like, no. There's no Gorskiing. I'm not fucking being Gorskiing. Like, come on now.
Gorski's on time. It's 6:05.
6:05. Are we actually on time? Did I actually make it on time? No, I'm a couple of minutes late. You guys were on time. I'm late, and I apologize. I talked about it in the intro, so my bad about that. Let me go on and fix this though.
What'd you talk about in the intro? What'd you share with the lovely people?
You know what? I talked a little bit about the topic, what we're going to be talking about.
A quick apple? What's a quick apple?
It's like a quick.
Sorry, we're at each other's necks right now. It's a quick dinner. There's nothing quick about an apple. You have to take your time, John. You have to be delicate with the apple. If you're gonna eat
of the fruits.
If you're gonna eat the apple, you have to be delicate. You have to be gentle with it. Take your time.
Or you could just eat it from the back of the bottom. Yes, that sounds so much dirtier than I'm saying. But I'm just saying. Yes. Have you seen somebody like eat an apple, however,
from the back
properly? No, quote unquote properly. So you can't eat the core if you eat around the core. But if you eat an apple like from the bottom of the apple, the core is not an issue. It's very strange. I know. I'm just saying.
What are you speaking of? What is?
Are you saying the bottom right here?
Wait, what?
The bottom of the apple?
Yeah.
No way.
You eat the bottom?
I have heard it told in stories. I've heard it done.
No, I have a friend that we were driving and I had a couple apples in my car, and so she's like, "Oh, can I get one?" I'm like, "Yeah." So she's eating an apple, and then I'm eating an apple, and I get to the middle part, and I look at her, and she's nothing in her hand. The window's closed. I'm like, "What'd you do with the apple?" And she's like, "I ate it." And I'm like, "Where's the middle part?" And so she's like, "Oh, I eat the whole thing." And I'm like, "The seeds too?" And she's like, "Yeah, I just eat the whole thing." And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "I've done it since I was a kid. I just eat the whole thing."
He's like, "Who are you? Who does that?
Does that? That's the thing."
Yeah.
I'm not. I mean, to be fair, and I know this is like a guy's conversation, but I was introduced to this concept by a woman as well. So who knows? Maybe this is a girl's thing, and we just don't know about it because girls rule, boys drool.
That's true.
Something like that.
I'm sure women everywhere are teaching men to eat the apple from the back. I am sure.
From the bottom. There's no back.
From the bottom. There's a back. and
the back or the bottom?
No.
Which one?
Lift up the apple, the bottom of the apple, John. Yes, there's a bottom to the apple.
No, that has to be. There's just not a.
I don't know. I thought you said back. I'm like
a peach.
Don't judge me. Don't judge me. By the way, I pre-gamed. I tailgated my own house.
Nice. Good on you. Hey, cheers.
So, on that note,
all right, now I'm done.
No, you can have an apple brandy.
I need a little snack, guys. I'm sorry.
So I'm sitting during these refinery talks on a refrigerator because
makes sense.
It's the only if you saw yesterday before we did our live, I posted a thing on Instagram and was like, I mean, this, it looks all cush and great, but the truth is we're sitting on a table because that's our option here. Otherwise, we have just the current apartment that we're in. We're not going to be here much longer, but this particular apartment is. Ugh. So
how do they often end up all looking alike?
wait, say again.
They do a good job of framing and everything.
Yeah, they end up looking alike.
The point is, I posted that, and it was literally a small table, 2 cardboard boxes of our dog food, like what the freezing things that the dog food comes in, and then the computer was stacked on top of that and open just under the ring light, but the other lights were surrounding it. And then in the kitchen, I had done literal lighting setups behind everything with all the small lights.
Oh man.
I gotta try and compete. Come on now.
Compete with what?
Some beautiful thoughts. Okay, so I want to jump into this for a multitude of reasons.
Jump.
One of them is the fact that the way that the intro went, it actually unintentionally led me perfectly into this, which is, how do we as men accept love? Because I don't think it's necessarily something that's modeled as much. I think that's a hard thing for a lot of guys. And Brandon, I had talked to Angelina about this, and I'm calling you out only because, in a good way, because you posted something from Upworthy. So everybody check out Upworthy if you don't know what it is. But that particular text exchange that was posted,
the bro text, the bro text.
So that's the side of the argument. You know what? Can you do me a favor? Can you explain what that text is real quick? What that was?
It's something we actually, I think we've done it before with each other, right? Which is checking in. One guy says, "Hey, bro," he says, "How are you doing?" And he says, "I'm good. What's up?" And the guy goes into this very detailed text message reply to the friend saying, "Listen, you said something that was very alarming to me. I wanted you to know it's been on my mind for the last couple of days. And long story short, if you need a friend, if you need someone to talk to, I'm praying for you. I'm here for you. I love you. We'll talk soon." That's what the text was, and it's something that some men don't know how to handle. I told a guy friend of mine, I said, he's actually from London. I was like, "I love you," in a text. And he's like, "Yeah, bro, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? You love me? Like, not with that funny stuff, you know what I mean?" And I'm like, "No, like a brother, like family." He's like, "Oh, okay, for sure, absolutely, appreciate it." And didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And now, this is 6 months later. He's like, "I get why you sent that text when you did." But in the moment, it was awkward. He thought I was hitting on him.
But that's exactly what I'm saying. It's such an interesting thing, because what I was most interested in, that was such a beautiful text to see that exchange, especially for us to have all gone through it. But there was a moment where I went, what did he say?
Yeah.
Like, I want to know what the reply was.
Yeah.
Because we have, with the Refinery, with our relationships here, I think that we've begun to scratch the surface and kind of give a frame of reference, as it were, to other men to say, "Hey, this is how you love other people. This is how you love yourself." But the thing that I don't see talked about a lot is, how do we take that in? How do
you have to love him?
Because
receive.
I mean, shit, unintentionally, our video for yesterday is for Part of Love. It has to do with this in a weird way. It kind of came around full circle to this from this quote that I had posted, or that I'm going to have posted. But it was something I wrote the other night with Ange, and I said, "Until I met you, before her, I never loved anyone enough to love myself enough to be the person we both deserved." And there was something in that I realized, like, wait, why did I wait so long to accept love? Like, what was that? And if I can help someone else not have to hold back, how can we help someone love themselves before someone else loves them? That's the question of tonight. How do we accept love? I want to talk about how we do it, and hopefully that'll inspire somebody else to do it.
I think you
Don't do it.
I think you just tapped on one of the big parts, and I think it's loving yourself first. Because if you can't love yourself, it's going to be very difficult to accept love from someone else. Because I think we don't, in a sense, believe it. And I've definitely been there where I wasn't in love with myself. And so when someone tells me, hey, love you, dude, or if a girl as a friend was just like, hey, love you, I care about you and stuff like that, I didn't believe it. Because I was just like, well, I don't love myself. So I don't think you fully know me. You don't really know. Yeah, you only know the good parts. And that's why it's easy for you to say that. But if you really knew me the way I knew me, I don't think you'd be saying that. And I think that's a big component. And I think there's a two-part to it, because the other part, I think, also our example of how we saw it with our dad. How did our dad take it? 'Cause my dad, a Polish guy, kind of stoic, did not, like, he would say, I love you. But when he heard it back, he was just kind of shrugged his shoulders, like, okay, cool. And he'd move on. And that's how I saw it. And I was just like, oh, it's not a big thing. Guys don't really show that they receiving it. So when I was young, especially when I dated girls, I had a hard time receiving or being okay, like, getting it. And now over past couple of years, I'm able to embrace it a lot more. And even just saying, oh, I receive. Because I think a lot of times I also would say it back just because, oh, if they're saying it to me, I got to say it now. Even sometimes I didn't necessarily mean it, but I felt bad. Like, if they're saying it, it's like the whole thing in a relationship. When someone says, like, for the first time, I love you, and you're just like, oh, I love you. But being honest with it and just being okay, like, just accepting, like, and receiving, I think is something that takes a lot of personal growth to look at.
Oh man, I mean, listen. I love the both of you. I have issue with this self-love thing. I really do. We talk about it a lot, but I have issue with it. Because just because you can have self-love does not mean you have any clue how to accept love. You have to willingly put here's an example. I can practice my ass off with a sword and a fucking bow and arrow and a knife in the woods for days. And then I get in that fucking battle and some guy is trying to kill me and I am scared to death. And I practice every fucking sword move I know. And I shot that bow and arrow 1,000 times to that fucking same doll. And I'm like, I'm really good with the bow and arrow. But not until I put myself in a situation and circumstance to actually have to apply it, am I going to really figure out what I'm made of. And the problem with a lot of people following this self-love culture is they don't have the courage and they don't have the bravery to risk the ability to be rejected in the face of love, because the shit can hurt.
But I think don't you need that first?
I don't think there's a first.
Like, don't you need some self-love for you to be able to go out?
I was, by the way, let me start this statement by saying I was someone who subscribed to the idea of first then. Okay. If love came along, I should not reject love because I didn't practice self-love. That shit's stupid to me. If love comes along, which Colt's a prime example of this, he didn't have self-love at first. He met Ange. Ange helped him to see and tap into self-love. The hope is that someone can cut a couple of steps out of the way by saying, well, if you practice self-love, you'd be more open and more willing to see and accept, love when it comes your way. But nothing can replicate, nothing can duplicate. Dude, the other day, John, this is a prime example. The other day you called me random as fuck, right? It wasn't that random, but you called me random as fuck. And you were like, hey man, I just want to let you know, like, what you did the other day, I really appreciated it. my brain is somewhere completely else before this phone call comes. But in that moment, I was caught off guard emotionally. I've been practicing self-love for fucking years now. I know how to spend time alone. I know my boundaries. But in that moment, I didn't know what to do with what you gave me because I wasn't ready for it. I didn't see it coming. And to me, that's the beauty of love. That's the dance with love, is that you just don't know. There's no way to really be prepared for it because you can do all the things. And one day you're sitting on the fucking couch and your partner comes in and says to you, I want to have your baby. And you're like, what do I even do with this? There was nothing in my self-love manual that said, okay, give myself a baby. So I hear what you're getting at, Colt, but I don't think anyone can truly learn how to receive love unless you put yourself in the fucking front lines.
Okay.
You got to put yourself in the front lines, and you got to get brave, and you got to get dirty, and you got to get in the fucking fire. You got to get and let it do what it's going to do. Let it hurt you. Let it heal you. That's mine.
No, I love that. Okay, so there's a couple of doors open that I'd love to shut one at a time. One is the set of tools that you kind of threw out, which I really like, is this concept of something I talked to Ange about the other day, which is you can be given tools. Someone can say, here is all of the raw materials to build a house. Here's everything you need to build a house. And they can leave you alone for 6 months, and they can come back, and there's one of the pieces of larger wood is leaned against a tree, and that's it. That's all you got, because you're like, I don't fucking know how to do this. I don't know what's next. I can't teach myself. Now, if somebody gives you those tools, or if you look back at the millions of people that have come before us and the eons of great thinkers who have come before us and lovers who have come before us, there's a way to study love to a degree. And I think that is where the misconception of self-love gets misconceived. I think that
hijacked. It gets hijacked by certain things.
Yeah, I think it gets kind of conflated with this concept of, well, if I like myself enough, that these are two different things. Like and love, and this is why we constantly push. I mean, at the pinnacle of what we believe at part of love, we do believe self-love is the pinnacle of that, only because that doesn't mean that you can't find the love you deserve and work your way there. I mean, that's literally what we did. So we would be ridiculous to say that that's not it. However, within the tools that we do our best to teach, that all of us do our best to share and teach from our own experience, you can gain something. Now, going into battle for the first time, yes, you can never be prepared for that regardless. And I obviously have no idea. I'm not a warrior of any sort, so, but having trained with that bow, having trained with that sword, having ridden horseback, all of that time prepares you for the inevitability of battle. So it takes me back to one of my favorite quotes from Bruce Lee, which is one of his students came up to him and said, I don't understand why you teach us violence and then tell us to be peaceful. How can you square that? And I'm obviously paraphrasing. And he said, I would rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. That to me says everything you need to know. You prep yourself with self-love for the possibility. You do your best to separate like from love. You learn how to love who you are so that you're not hiding who you are behind all of the levels of bullshit that, like I did when I met Ange. I lied to her about so many things about who I was. And it was only through living life together that I revealed, no, this is actually what I really wanted. This is really what I am. This is really who I am. And I got very, very fucking lucky that she saw it all at the very beginning and was like, no, I'm cool to wait. It's okay. Like, had I loved myself enough to have just been that person earlier, maybe I could have saved her a lot of the heartache that I caused her, and me a lot of the fucking heartache I caused myself. So with regards to loving yourself, I think the tools are a necessary thing, but I also think you can't just, I agree, you can't just say, well, I've got all these tools, house shall be built. Do you know how to use them? Has
Right.
have you practiced? Like,
But
I
I
think
think that but I think there's two things we're mixing, because one, Colt, I think it's there's a difference between loving yourself and then trusting the other person. I think trusting the other person is where we start to open up to them. But like, to Brandon's analogy with the tools, it's like the person, and kind of Colt touched on it, the person who's practicing with the bow and practicing with the sword is going to feel much more comfortable going into their first battle than if they've never touched any weapon and then try to get into it. And they're more likely to actually, which I've seen, and when it comes to love, is take a step back and be like, I don't even know what the fuck to do with this. Where at least if like love, actually from my experience, I'm talking from by learning to love myself, I was able to realize that I was able to be like, oh shit, someone can love me. But I remember those times when I didn't love myself and I tried to jump into it, I would attach myself to it was almost like a seek the validation. When someone did show me love, I either didn't know how to handle it, so I'd push away, or I would pull it in, but I was coming for the wrong reasons. It wasn't
Yeah.
until, like, I remember when I got the example of like, before you date anyone, you should be able to date yourself. And I used to give this example to people where it's just like, if you can't take time to spend time with yourself, if you get in a relationship, you're going to be getting in a relationship for the wrong reasons, because you're almost going to make it all about them. And so I think by having and it's true, I don't think it's only you need to have self-love to get there. It may show up and then you learn the self-love in the process.
But what you just said is my issue. That is my issue, right? My issue isn't the idea of self-love can actually create a greater love and a greater relationship and a greater way to embrace. I have issue with a culture that says first. Words are very important to me. So when people word something or say something, I pay attention. You must first love yourself and then you can learn. No, if I'm in a situation that this is a very brief interjection. I want you to finish your point. But when you say things like first and whatever, some people will completely become isolated from the ability of any experience that could come their way, because they think, well, I can't have love because I haven't learned self-love first. But love is standing right in their fucking face. That to me is what I have issue with. It's like, dude, don't you fucking miss out on this amazing woman who's like, I want to just get to know you and spend time with you. And you're like, no, but I've got to do my self-love and my self-work before I can be with you. And she's like, okay, well, life goes on. And now she's off and married with 3 fucking kids. Because you didn't understand that, like, part of this self-love first is I can be with you and do the work I need to do it myself. Set that boundary, set the time aside, go outside, go for a walk. I can do that and date you. So that, and with women, it's completely different, because I know so many women right now that are on this kick of self-love, self-love, self-love as really a fucking guard and a blanket from rejection. They don't want to be hurt anymore. So it's the whole I'm doing me over here bit. But John, didn't mean to like long-winded interject, but please, by all means.
Well, I think you're saying, what you're saying is basically be open. If it shows up, don't just shut it down because you're not in love with yourself. I do
Correct.
think I still will stand by, like, there has to be a level of practicing self-love, because I personally have been there and I've seen friends who aren't there and try to jump into relationships because it shows up, and it's only hurt them more because they are not in a place where, like, again, I go back to if they're not happy with who they are and they're not in love with, like, and I'm not saying like you have to love everything about you, but be past the 50% mark of being happy with who you are. I've seen people get into relationships thinking that, oh, this person will complete me, or this person will help me get there. And I'm not saying it won't happen. I've seen it happen, but I've seen a lot more where that's people get in for the wrong reasons, and it may show up, but is it really what it should? It's like, because you're saying, oh, this person showed up and then they left, and now they have 3 kids. Well, maybe that wasn't meant for this person. So it's like stuff will show up, but I do think it's really asking, am I ready to be in a relationship? Because I do think there are people who jump into relationships because they can't be with themselves, so they need someone else in the thing. And I've seen people get hurt going that route,
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's a mix of the two. I think it's true. Be open. I don't think we should shut the door down and really ask ourselves, am I shutting this door down to potential love here because I need to work on myself? Is it really because I need to work on myself, or am I so scared of being rejected or scared of some outside thing happening that I'm actually going to use this as an excuse? So
Right.
I agree with you. I think it is being open to what presents itself. But I think also I will still stand that it's like there has to be a personal journey of appreciating yourself, because I think the biggest thing is when you, I remember hearing this analogy where it's just like we've heard for so long is when two people come together 50-50, and it's like you build together, but in reality it's like both of you should be 100%. You shouldn't be relying on someone else. And when you get together, there's an overwhelming amount of love that's pouring out of the cup. And so I've thought about that, and it's obviously there's a journey of falling in love with yourself, but I think in the process, like you're saying, be open to what shows up.
Prattes, get in there.
No, I love this very, very, very much. Like I said before, I really agree with the concept um of exactly what both of you are saying. I think that there's almost I think there's a separate conversation going on other than what we are actually talking about, because I think we're all talking about the same thing, which is what Jon just hit on. I think Jon hit on where the conversation is kind of unintentionally landed, which is be open to everything, be open to those things. But by closing yourself off, by definition, by closing yourself off for the sole purpose of saying, I am not done doing my self love, then you are practicing a lack of self love by closing yourself.
You're doing
off.
self-sabotage.
Yeah.
This is now self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you're in that phase, you're fucking yourself already. Like there's no way out of that box of contradictions where you're like, well, until I'm ready, I can't do this. And then it's a moment. That's all a bunch of bullshit. It's a bunch of excuses. I was in no way ready for who I am now 11 years ago. That's the fucking point. The one thing I knew was that I wanted this thing so much. We always say love is, I don't believe in love at first sight. That's not a thing. Love, in our description, is best I can figure it out. The best description I've come up with so far is love, or the lack thereof, is action over time. That's how you equate it. And within that, I hoped that we would be together forever. I still hope that we will be together forever. I think it's a silly thing to just throw it all on faith and say, well, done, nailed it, married, and there we go. I think there's an act of, as we talked about in yesterday's episode, there's an act of competition. I don't know if I've talked to you guys about this. I feel like I probably have, because I love y'all, so I feel like I've shared it at some point. But the origin of the word compete, have we talked about that?
The you don't love us, because we haven't talked about it.
I'm sorry.
You just said you love us, and we probably talked about it.
To fucking look now so hard. I'm about to look so hard, bro. All right, you ready for this? So, if you watched yesterday's episode, you know this already.
Is this, you talking coffee and tea?
No, this is from the Thursday episode. So Wednesday, Thursday, yeah. But we're talking about why it's very important to compete in love, because the etymology of the word compete comes from, I believe it's the original Greek, which is to strive together, which makes competition so much more beautiful when you think about it that way. It makes the Olympics so much more beautiful. Everything in general, some of the history that's happened there, but more importantly, within relationships, the reason that I love you guys so much is because I'm constantly competing with you, in the sense that we are always striving by, Brandon, you move a little bit forward and I go, oh, that's a new level. I need to come up to here. Jon goes up to here. somebody else comes up to here. And in a relationship, you're going, oh, I drive this so that you drive this so that I drive this. We're trying to push ourselves forward together. I love that idea. And so I think that one of the things about self-love that gets misconstrued is that it's I do this until I reach this percentage, and then I do this. And though I love the 51-49 thing, I say that all the time, John, in general, I think that I've been listening to a couple of different debates. I love debates. Debates are my fucking favorite thing in the world to listen to. And I've been listening to a lot of them lately. And one of the main things that they touch on is this concept of you cannot take an Instagram quote and live your life by it. That can't be
correct.
You can't fucking do. That's why I've joked so many times about the wolves and the bears and the lions. That's why I've joked about that thing of the over inundation of quotable quotes. And I'm a part of that. I'm putting it out there. But in addition to that, I'm also going, hey, here's the quote. And here's the other 60 hours of shit you need to be doing just to get a handle on what I mean by this quote. So I think that part of this accepting love may be something in the realm of acknowledging that if something touches you, if somebody sends you something, maybe that's the impetus, that's the catalyst to send you on a quest of, why do I feel this way about this? What and why? I think the more that we can do that, why did I just meet this person out at a bar and I can't stop thinking about them? What? I can't stop thinking about them. Maybe I just want to, have sex. I just want to fuck this person. That's cool. That's totally fine. That is absolutely fine if you're both up for that. But I'm just saying,
the other person is not.
The why, if you're looking at this person and going, man, there was something about the way that they talked about that Mammoth book that I just absolutely loved, or they talked about fucking Camus, like they talked about somebody that I clicked with that, and I was like, holy shit, I really like that. I wonder what's next. I think you should not put aside, your self-love is a part of that. Self-love should be a part of this journey, but I don't think it's the impetus. And I agree 100% with both of you that even though it sounds like we're all disagreeing, we're not. Like, we're actually agreeing.
No, we're disagreeing, Colt, because you wanted this and now it's happening.
Okay.
Now we disagree on everything. There's 3 different sides, and this is what you've been asking for. Now you're getting it, buddy.
It's a triangle.
Now you're getting it. Hey, it's
good debate.
Let's go.
Good debate going on.
It's a debate. No, but here's my question for you, Colt. What is the toughest thing that Ange does for you that you still struggle with receiving today?
You know what?
Yeah.
It's actually not something that I struggled with early on, because I selfishly took it in. It was like I drank my own Kool-Aid and was like, nah, I deserve this. And I got super fucked up. And so when I met Ange, she painted herself as someone who, and we've talked about this a lot, but she painted herself as someone who, she was like, I love taking care of you. I want to take care of you. I want to be the woman. You're the man. Like, that's what I want. I want to cook for you. I want to clean for you. I want to do these things. However, she gave me a billion signals that, like, in addition to this, I also don't want you to be a dumb asshole. And I didn't catch any of those. I was like, this is so cool. You're cooking and this is really good. And oh my God, can you make shepherd's pie again? Oh my God, can you make this again? Like, I remember there's this picture in my head that I always think about with this. She was in her kitchen. We lived, we always talk about the city. City means New York City. No other city is the city. The city, when I say it, I mean New York City at all times. And we were living in the city. We were at 37th and 9th, and I had gotten an apartment on 30th and 9th. That's a whole other story. But in her apartment, I have a picture of her, She's in her bra. She's literally cooking, not microwaving, cooking Taco Bell. And like she had taken it and she was like, I'm gonna make this nice. I'm gonna put it on these things. I'm gonna heat it up in the oven. I'm gonna broil this one because it's gonna be better. It's gonna be so good. And she's also vacuuming at the same time
There's no way. There's no
in
way.
a bra
There's no way.
and jeans.
There's no
So
way.
on jeans. And
There's
I was
no
like,
way.
and
No,
I
that's
took
a
a picture because
unicorn.
I was like,
That's a unicorn.
forever.
There's no
need
way.
this fucking ever. And just hair everywhere. And I was just like, she likes this. And I genuinely thought that. I genuinely thought I no longer need to do anything. I found a woman who wants to be the woman. All I have to do is be the man. But a couple of things happened. One, just fucking stupid. And two, B through Z, I wasn't even being a man the way I was supposed to. I wasn't actually saving and prepping for our future and doing all those things. I was just taking full advantage of all of the love she was giving me and just shitting it out on the other side. It was awful. So the thing that's hardest for me now is the thing that this episode actually started with, where I'm sitting here and I'm talking to the camera and I'm saying, so today is about us accepting love, and just literally in the background getting whiskey because I have been editing part of Love and another project that we're doing and working on this thing for tomorrow and all of these things, and I forgot to get anything, but it's 9:05 and you guys are both in the waiting room and I don't know what to do. And she just walks without asking me, just walks back there and goes, want the Japanese, you want the regular? And that was it. And like those things are hard in my mind and in my heart because I feel like shit, I should have taken care of this, gotten up and gotten myself this thing. I don't want her to wait on me. I took advantage of that. I've already taken advantage of that. So that's a hard thing for me still to be like at night when we finish dinner sometimes she'll get up and she's like, no, keep it running. It's okay. It's okay. And she'll clean up. And the whole time I'm like, and I have half the time I have to get up. In the morning, I can't sleep if I know she's not taking care of the girls unless there's something very pivotal on my plate that day. You know what I mean? So that's the hard thing for me to still accept love-wise. And it's been a lesson. I'm sorry, I know this is probably a longer form answer than you expected.
No,
keep going.
This. Yeah.
That's a hard thing for both of us. The morning time, and this is the rounding out, the closing of the door, the finishing of the circle. But it's been really hard for us both to accept that one of us can still be tired because maybe one of us didn't get a great night's sleep. Maybe one of us had bad dreams, whatever. And we wake up in the morning and we're just like, fuck, man, I want to get up. And you're in a crabby ass mood. And the other one is like wide awake and it's like, I'm going to go on and get up. And it's cool. And both of us do this thing where we're like if I'm absolutely just like, I'm like, no, it's cool. It's cool. Stay. And I'll get upset because I'm like, no, I need you to stay because I can't accept that right now. Like and she does the same thing, but we're getting to a place where we go, wait, we both do this. We both take the time when it's necessary, and we both can recognize through that action over time that this isn't being done to earn fucking points. This isn't being done for any reason other than I love you. And you are fucking tired, and that's okay. But that's a hard thing. It's a hard thing, and it takes a lot of time. So
I want to look at how this is framed, right? I want to look at the framing of your question that you posed the entire night with.
Yeah, hit me.
Because the key that you just said, and I loved it, and I love it because I want to pull and pick apart this whole thing. Is the question really accepting love? Because you clearly said you were accepting the love that she was giving you, but you were taking advantage of it. So then if you practice self-love and you learn to accept if you accept love, but you're not giving anything back or you're not really appreciating it, what's the real question here? The question is longer. The question is longer. No longer how do you accept love? Because plenty of people can accept love. Plenty of people can accept the compliments. Plenty of people can accept the service, right? You see where I'm going with this? So then what is the question? I see.
I see where you're going with it, but I already think I have a rebuttal, which is
No, please.
Which is accepting love is different than accepting favors, is different than accepting. I think it's very, very different. To accept love has to do, for me, with acknowledging that it is love inherent. Like there's got to be something on your part. When someone texts, when your boy texts you and says, "Hey, I'm thinking about you, and you're going through some bullshit, and I want to help you, and I just want you to know you fucked me up." If you don't accept that as love, you become combative. There's a million edges to this sword, and I'm sure I'm not going to get them all right because this wasn't that empty. But the truth is, I think there's a lot of this that comes down to, I didn't accept that was love necessarily. I accepted that was in the moment. Well, actually, you know what? You're right. I feel like what I just said was right up until now. And at this point, what I will say is, you're right. I accepted her love and then took it for granted.
And then took it for granted.
So within this, how do we accept love and put it to good use?
Come on, somebody.
Hey,
let the drinks flow. I like it.
Hey. But that's the thing. I guess it's.
Oh my God. By the way, I love that this is what you've been looking for. And I love the way you've lit up, because it's like, everything's not flowing smoothly. And I love it.
Oh, it's the best. Oh, it's the fucking best. This is my favorite episode of season 2 so far. Hands down. And not just because, before I talked for 20 minutes. Like, it was my favorite the whole time. John's in a hoodie. You got a denim jacket. I don't have a denim jacket. That's probably why it's my favorite, because I can't walk off screen and come back wearing a denim jacket.
Stop. I'm gonna pee. I'm gonna fucking pee myself. Oh shit. He doesn't have a fucking denim jacket. This is the one piece of wardrobe we don't share. We share everything else.
I don't have it here. Obviously. Why would you? It's just rude for you to even assume. Just to throw it out there.
By the way, a friend of mine told me this thing about assume today, and I loved it. And I never heard this before. He said the problem with assume, or the thing with assume, is you make an ass out of you and me. And I said, that is fucking phenomenal. Yeah. Like anytime anyone ever says assume again, or I assumed, all I'm going to think of is that particular acronym. But anyway, Gorski.
Just rewind 15 seconds and watch my face right before you said that. My mom used to say that all the time.
Really?
Yeah. That was,
and I love that woman.
She was like,
because I love her.
Of course. There it is. All right,
yeah.
jump in here.
There it is.
Well, just to that assume part, I learned from a buddy of mine. He was like, use the word presume. I presume that this is what you're going with, because this is like, if they're like, you're wrong, and you're like, well, I didn't want to make an assumption, so I made a presumption, which is before making an assumption. So let me correct myself real quick.
Presumption just makes it out of you and of me, which is great.
Yeah. Before I do that,
you have to stick out your pinky with presumption. You can't just do that. I was presuming that this is what you wanted. Yes. And I presume that you.
Well, I want to tap into kind of where I thought Brandon was going this way, but I thought going with the question you were asking was, how do we receive love? And I also wonder if it leads to how do we, I don't know if exchange is the right word, but receiving love also is giving it back. And it's a cycle, especially when you're in a relationship. How do we take care of each other? And I was talking to a buddy earlier tonight about, we're going to do a clubhouse, and we're trying to talk about like, okay, what would be an interesting topic when it comes to dating? And I just thought about the whole thing about dating in itself. It's like, and then Colt, you've talked about this, and I've heard other friends that are in like long-term relationships. Dating never stops. And like, why is that? Why is that dating never stops kind of thing? And some
Mhm.
people, I don't know, I've heard that some people don't believe that once you get married, you don't have to date anymore. And I'm like, no, I've heard the opposite. It's like you continue dating. Like that's what keeps the relationship fresh and keeps it and like keeps it alive. And I think that's that part of the exchange. Like Ange doing those gestures for you, I'm sure in your mind you're doing other gestures for her where she's sitting there saying like, wow, look at all these things Colt does for me. And it's this exchange where it's like you do things for each other and it helps to receive. But I think I've been in a situation where I wasn't reciprocating and it made it very hard for me to receive. And I didn't understand why. And part of me was like, oh shit, it's hard for me to receive because I'm like you were saying, or one of you two said, it becomes favors and start taking tally. Oh man, she's done like 10 of these things and I haven't done shit. And like, I don't want her to do more. Like, I don't want to, no, stop. I don't want to, stop doing all these things for me. And then it becomes this comparison thing. When reality is like, no, I'm not doing like these 5 things so that you do 5 things for me. I think part of it is like, no, I want to do this because I care about you and I know this is gonna make your life a little easier, or this is gonna add to your life. And I know that down the road you'll probably do the same thing for me because we both care for each other. I think that's one of the things when it comes that helps to accept love is knowing, okay, are we in partnership? Because it is you. I'm wondering. I'm sure we've all been in the situation where we're friendship and friends with someone where they keep doing all this stuff for you, and after a while you're like, yo, like slow down, like why are you doing all this stuff? And it becomes almost as like they're either whether it be buying your love or trying to maybe an alternative motive or something. But when the relationship isn't reciprocating and like a cycle and both sides are taking
A
care of
red
each
flag
other.
goes up. Yeah, a flag goes up, and you're like, something's not right here. Like, I don't even do a quarter of what the fuck you do for me. Why are you still baking me cookies and dropping off drinks? This doesn't make sense.
Self-awareness, right? Okay, so this kicks off a couple of things. One of which is I want to keep the door open of the circle and go back to that in a second because that's something we talk about a lot. But you know what? I think that I've misrepresented part of love in general through this conversation unintentionally, fully, but both of you have also unintentionally, I think, called it out. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe you were like fucking texting each other and you're like, call this motherfucker out.
It's exactly what we did.
He caught us.
Exactly. You kept, yeah, you've been calling for this.
A very long phone. It's a classic. It's an iPhone classic. Look, we talk about self-love a lot on the channel, but the actual truth of it is the more complete truth is that we talk about self-awareness. Self-awareness is paramount.
That's a come on somebody. That's a come on somebody moment.
Self-awareness it is the absolute paramount of everything because self-love doesn't exist without self-awareness. Loving anybody else doesn't exist without self-awareness. None of this exists without self-awareness. Why, what, and why. Right? So that takes me back to what you were just talking about, John, the circle, right? Which I think you were kind of unintentionally hitting at. We talk a lot about being a full circle of yourself, but a relationship is a reciprocal circle. It is, and it's not, and when you say that 50-50, yes, but it's 50-50 as if 100 and 100 exists like this. And then you do this and you're like, oh shit, now it's 50-50, but it's actually 100 separate. It's still
and the energy just keeps flowing. Yeah.
And sometimes, I'm not gonna lie to you, like sometimes it goes like this, and now she's taking on more of the yeah, that probably wasn't a great visual, but I think you understood what I meant. Sometimes
yes.
Angelina takes on way more than me, and sometimes I take on more than her. And more is a very relative term. It's a very postmodern, like relative thing.
Yeah.
With this whole concept of more. But when she needs space to do her, I take on more of the day-to-day. When I am, especially like I'm not gonna lie to you, like I'm super selfish when I'm filming. That doesn't mean I'm a dick. It does mean though, like I'm very upfront and I'm like, hey, these are the things that I need. This is how much of me you're probably going to get. I don't know, but like this is I'm going to have to take a step back to a degree. That means she's taking the girls out, feeding, taking care of them, taking care of the house, taking care of everything else outside of the thing that I'm doing, because that makes my life easier, which in turn makes our life easier, right? But I also acknowledge that when she has personal shit, or when I have personal shit going on, that I can take that brunt. I think it's that cyclical nature of going, if someone's been giving 75% and you've been giving 25%, go fuck yourself, get off your ass, cowboy up, and let's go. Like, otherwise, get out. Like,
But I think you mentioned a good part though. Communicate. If you know you're only going to be giving 25% at the time, giving the heads up, like, hey, I'm going to be like head in on this project for this next like week. I just want to give you a heads up. I'm not going to be able to be a big participant in this relationship this coming week. Heads up. And that communication usually will save a lot of headaches, because I think a lot of it comes down to when we don't communicate and then you're only giving 25%, the other person starts wondering, it's like, yo, I'm doing a lot. This person isn't doing very much, and I don't even know why. And then it starts leaving the mind to start coming up with stuff.
Of course. And I think it's a mixture of a couple of things. One of them is communication, but the other is, yes, again, throwback to action over time. It does take time to understand those things, but you taking that action of communicating is super important. In addition to that, I'm not talking about, like, there are times when Angie's doing 90% and I'm 10 on what I feel like my end is, because I'm just, I don't know, going through personal shit, or just like I'm just at the end of my rope, as we all get to. We get to that end of that rope of like, I don't even know. I don't know what to do next. I don't know what is coming next, and I'm scared. And there are days where I wake up and I'm like, I got to keep this from her, because like I'm going to drag us down in a way. And by the end of the day, sometimes I'm past it and sometimes I'm not. And that's okay. And that accepting that other percentage, accepting that love is so necessary sometimes. Y'all, there are times when I don't deserve the goodness that she is, that I haven't deserved it, but I've had to accept it and been like, and maybe I do. Maybe I'm not the arbiter of that decision. I don't know how to explain that, but other than there are times when I have to look at it and just go, I don't have another fucking answer. Thank you. And I think that is what I hope somebody gets out of this. I hope that somebody gets a text and just goes, I'm not fighting this. I'm going to accept this today. I'm gonna let this be, because I'm accepting that this is what I need, and then I'm okay with that. I think that's a necessary thing, and I think it would have helped all of us. I think it would help somebody who's watching. I hope it does.
I fucking love how you got here. This was the original intention of your entire question. What you just said was the entire intention of your question, is that someone learns how to accept that I needed that. That's the intention, right? Yeah. We went about it in a particular way, and I love that we went about it in our particular way, of the way we did it, and John sharing his thoughts. But when I heard you just say that, I said, that's what sparked the text that you saw. What sparked the question in you was, man, that person really needed that.
Yeah.
And how were they able to say, I embrace you reaching out to me, or I embrace John's phone call the other day, or I embrace Colt, just, you being you with me, what our relationship is, right? How do you say, man, I needed that. I needed that. Thank you.
Yeah.
To me, that is the core of what you're prompting with this conversation. And if that's where we're going with this, Surrender is the word that comes to mind for me. Right? Surrender is a mixture of things where what I loved about what you just said is you don't even have a comeback. You don't even have a gift to give back. You don't have anything else to give back, but you gave me what I needed, and there's nothing I could ever do to repay you for giving me the thing I needed when I needed it. And you love me enough to see me in that moment. You love me enough to hear me. You love me enough to see me, to give me the thing I needed, knowing I probably could never give it back to you the way you gave it to me, but you did it anyway. So all I can say is thank you. Or all I can do is stand there and shake my head, or all I can do is give you a hug. How do we learn to embrace and walk in that? I think the only way we do that is surrendering our ego. We surrender and we let go of the fact that there's nothing that you could do to repay that person. There's nothing you could do that would prompt them to want to give that to you. Real love can't prompt someone to want to give you something like that. Real love can't. What Ange does for you, there's nothing Colt Prattes has ever done to make Angelina give you what she gives you. That's who she is. That's her character. That's her heart. She was built that way before she ever met you. And even if you passed away tomorrow, she would still be that woman. How crazy is that?
Yeah.
So we have to surrender to the fact that this person's heart is so full and so good, and something pushed them and prompted them for some odd reason to do this particular thing that I can't explain, but fuck it, here it is. Thank you.
Within that, I do want to touch on one thing that I keep coming back
Get
to.
in there. Get in there.
I don't know what the ethereal prompting is. I certainly can't pretend to speak to that. To know that, but I can say that within that beautiful dance that is life, the beautiful dance of making things happen and letting things happen. On my side of the 50%, what I owe life, my 50% is my action over time. That is why I say that. That is my love. I don't know what drives Angie's other 50%, and I never will. Love her. I know what drives my 50% to give her every opportunity, to give her every opportunity to deserve that love that I get from her, to deserve the love that I get from y'all. I tried to be more aware in the last week or two, but definitely in the last week of our text conversations. Something very simple. I try to be more aware because I know that I'm not, but that is me actively not showing y'all love and then just showing up on Thursdays. That's not cool. That's not the fucking job. Now, granted, that is not always the job to respond to the text. That is not the friendship. That is not the love. There is more to it than that. We could not talk for months and then come back together and be fine. But if I have the ability to check in, I should check in. And there's something to whatever, John, when you called Brandon, when I sent you that package, those things called to me. I could have ignored that. You could have ignored all of your signs. You could have never reached out to me to ask me to write an article for NewAgeGents. John, you could have never reached out to Brandon to ask him to join the Refinery. Brandon, you could have never reached out to ask me. But that action over time turned into love and is spreading love, therefore, to so many more people.
Come on, somebody. Hey, now. Don't start preaching. You better be careful. You better be careful, Colt. You better be careful.
Our actions have a weight. Our actions, we have a responsibility for those actions. And those episodes include what we accept.
Come on, somebody. Mm.
I didn't know. I asked Ange 5 or 6 times today alone. Let me pitch you this idea, because I want to make sure how this sounds before it comes out. Because I didn't want to get here and be like, and then one of y'all be like, yeah, but also what about this? And have to save me from myself, but this was something that was so on my heart, and I kept coming back to it, and I kept seeing that text exchange, and all I could see was, what is he saying to himself on the other side? I don't necessarily need to see it, but there was this hope in my heart that whether or not that was a real text exchange, or whether it was, a plug-in that somebody typed that message into, it was necessary. That was love no matter what, because we've all been through that. Someone's been through that. And I hope that by the end of this video, whoever was watching it maybe had, the next time that came through for them in some way. I didn't mean to, but Brandon, you hit it on the head, man. Fuck. It's exciting to think that, John, what you created unintentionally years ago, man. And you just happened to invite Brandon to, and Brandon just happened to know me and invite me to it. And we did it a few times, and I just happened to reach out to you and be like, hey, what do you think? And it's something that makes me very grateful to look back. We all had to accept a lot of love to get to the point that we're at. And
ladies and gentlemen. And
within that, there's just a lot of love that can come out of it. So I think that we should all do our best to accept as much of it as we can.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mean to wrap it up, y'all. I swear to God. I swear to God.
That was perfect,
I see y'all's fucking faces, and I'm like, this has been the Refinery, episode 9, season 2.